Scott Peterson with the breaking inflation numbers from StatsCan. And Scott, they are far higher than we even expected.
Yeah, 7.7%. Heather, this takes us to an inflation rate that we have not seen all the way back to 1983. And it's also the largest month-over-month jump in the inflation rate going back since they kept these type of records from Statistics Canada, and that's in 1992. But everything across the board was more expensive. Services, as more people got out of their homes, wanting restaurants, hotels, etc., up over 5%. But let's take a look at the main culprits driving this inflation, and as you mentioned, a lot faster than economists were expecting. Gasoline prices up 12% month over month. That's the biggest jump in a month, biggest jump in a month going back 2 years, up 48% year over year now. Fuel oil, other types of fuels up a whopping 95%. We've got food stable, but it's still up 9.7%. That's the fastest increase going back to the early 1980s. Edible fats and cooking oil, in particular used around the world, that's up 30% year over year. That's the largest increase on record. We've got shelter costs up about 7.5%, furniture up 23%, and wages as well. They're rising, but not nearly as fast as these prices. 3.9% is the average wage hike in Canada. So anything above and beyond that really is money coming out of Canadians' pocket. And no doubt the Bank of Canada, the Governor, Tiff Macklem, is sitting on the edge of his seat looking at these numbers because the Bank of Canada is comfortable with a 2 to 3% inflationary comfort zone. This is approaching triple that. So clearly the writing is on the wall for another bank hike from the Bank of Canada when they next meet July 13th.
July 13th, our next date on the calendar. Scott, thank you. Just stand by for now. I want to bring in Michael because we're tackling this story and what it means to you with special team coverage today. Michael, what we're hearing from Scott, 7.7%, that will add to the financial pain the Canadians are already telling us this morning they are experiencing.
Absolutely. And it was interesting to hear from Scott listing out the food items that have gone up in price by percentages, because that really is what we're getting a reflection of from our viewers as they tell us their stories. For example, Christina in Nova Scotia, she talked about how she and her partner no longer go out for meals anymore. They now eat all their meals at home. They don't even do takeaway. Grocery bills, she says, has increased more than double. A dozen eggs used to be $2.99 where she is. They're now about $4.99 per dozen. And sadly, she says they cannot pay monthly bills on time anymore. Late payments are now their new normal. Roland telling us something similar, saying that they don't buy coffee anymore, that they don't buy water anymore. They bring their own wherever they go. They also do not go for lunch. And it's interesting because food seems to be the way many people are trying to adapt to these inflationary prices, trying to save money on what they eat, don't eat. Some sadly making some big changes like skipping whole meals out of budgetary concerns. Take a listen to what we heard from some people in Vancouver.
There are certain things that, are more expensive, the staples, and so you're a bit more careful about those, and certain luxuries like buying coffees at work and that sort of thing.
For the groceries, I'm just looking for the cheapest store so I can afford my food.
Cutting down our menus, making it very simple, beans on toast.
You eat a lot less because everything's like,
it's a lot more.
You look at the food, you look at the price, and you're like, maybe tomorrow or something.
Maybe tomorrow is actually sadly a common refrain now because we know not everyone is making ends meet. And earlier this month, we heard from Food Banks Canada. They say the number of visits to food banks in this country has gone up some 25% in certain regions. A poll conducted by the organization found that 20% of Canadians, so 1 in 5 Canadians, are reporting going hungry at least once in the year since the pandemic began. That's how bad it's been, and it's only expected to get worse because food bank use does go up in the summer, Heather.
Well, we were just talking with the CEO of the Ottawa Food Bank, and it was quite striking. And our viewers are telling us one going on a liquid diet right now thinks that's an appropriate thing to do because it's $5 a meal. So, Michael, stand by. We're going to come back to some of the other issues for our viewers, fuel, in just a second. But I would want to bring Scott back because as we look at this 7.7% rate, Scott, one of the words that we're hearing a lot lately, the R word is recession. What's the thinking there?
The thinking there is, as Michael's pointing out, if people truly are pulling back on their spending, or if they're carpooling, if they're spending less in general, and they do that for 2 quarters in a row, that's the technical definition of a recession, when the economy contracts. So Goldman Sachs now puts a number on that at 30%, but we have a variety of politicians, from the U.S. President, the Treasury Secretary, politicians in Canada saying that we're not heading towards a recession. Tiff Macklem as well, the Bank of Canada governor. But usually when that R word starts getting mentioned, this means a lot of people are worried that that's exactly where we're heading. And let's not forget as well, consumer spending accounts for about 2/3 of the entire economy. So that's how important consumer spending is, and people going out and enjoying themselves and spending money. So some very serious worries about how quickly now the Bank of Canada and other central banks around the world will raise interest rates, because that kills spending, and it also makes borrowing more expensive. So lots of attention now on that second shoe to drop, and that's rising interest rates, Heather.